G'day guys, this is Rob from Troutlore.com.au, Australia's fly tying specialist store. Today it's a mild, stormy, wintry day here in Rushworth, Victoria, and these storms have had us thinking about the ant hatches that are likely to turn up in a month or two's time when we get those afternoon storms in spring. So we're tying a flying ant. Let's get started. We are coming in with an Ahrex FW500 hook, in size 14. I'll tie these in the 14, 16 and 18 for those really finicky little fish. And then we're going to start wrapping from just behind the eye with some black 70 Denier UTC thread. I'm going to hold this tag out on about a 30-degree angle and wrap into it as I go. That'll force the thread to sit towards the eye with every wrap, essentially forcing each wrap up against itself. That way we get a nice even layer of thread on the hook shank, so there's nothing to slip around. Just trim that off before we get to the end, and a few more wraps to finish it, and we'll finish with our thread right there at the bend of the hook. To form the body, we're using dubbing. Here we're using the natural hollow fibre dubbing from Upavon, and naturally we're doing that in the black for the ant. So a good licking of dubbing wax on this thread makes it easy to get that nice tight ball to form the body if you've got a little extra wax on there. Normally I go sparingly. With this one I'm happy to put that extra bit on. But we'll still go sparingly with the dubbing and just keep adding it layer upon layer so that we're not putting too much on in one wrap, and that allows us to control the shape that we build up. So a nice fine noodle aided by all that wax on the thread, and then we'll start wrapping forward from the bend of the hook, taking up about a third of the hook shank before we start wrapping back onto itself. Essentially you want to just build up a little ball of dubbing on this hook to form the rear of the ant's body. So there's the first dubbing noodle. We come back in, we're going to do a second round. And again, just the smallest amount of dubbing required. That sticks to the thread like so, with all that wax, and then we'll just spin it on nice and tight. This way we're essentially just wrapping thicker thread on and building up the bulk as we do it. So just making sure that we're watching the taper on either side as we wrap into that, just to get a nice even shape. And we'll preen that up and trim out any of those flyaways. Take care of that, and a couple of wraps at the rear just to create the definition, and then we come forward, bring our thread up to the front third of the hook, and we're going to repeat that process. Again, don't be shy with the dubbing wax, especially if you're using something like Overton's Wonder Wax where it doesn't tend to glug up too much. You can put a fairly good amount on there. And you know this stuff's going to stick. So another fine noodle, and we'll wrap forward. Just stop short of the eye, we don't want to crowd that. And then wrap backwards till we get about the length we want, and then it's a matter of working back and forth again to build up a shape similar to that on the rear of the hook. So in comes some extra dubbing. Extend that noodle out nice and tight on the thread. working back and forth just to get that shape. Actually gone a little less on this front one on that second round, so I'm just going to go the tiniest bit more. Remember, you can always add more dubbing. It's easy to do that. It's a lot harder to take it off. I think I say this in just about every video I've done on this YouTube channel. If you've got the time to watch and go back and fact check that, I dare you. But it works, and it ensures that you can just keep building to where you need it to be, and you don't have to go undoing steps in the process, which can be a lot harder. There we go, we've got our body. Now we'll bring our thread to just behind that ball, and we're going to tie in our wing. For that, we're using the Upavon Natural CDC. There's all sorts of stuff in this pack, different shapes and sizes. This fly gives you the ability to use up some of those little wispy feathers you probably wouldn't use on a lot of other flies. We actually don't want the big ones that are quite full and fluffy. We want these ones which stay nice and tight when pinched together, so it doesn't puff out too much. So basically, we want to tie it in at about a body's length worth of feather. I'll tie that first one in and then just cross it slightly like so. Then we take the second one, which again I've picked it for the same sort of size and shape, and measure out the length of about the body's worth. A couple of loose wraps on that, and then just align that so we've got a V shape with those two feather wings. Don't worry about it hanging down like that, it's not a problem. We just need to secure this in first. A couple of wraps in front of those feathers to lock that thread off so it doesn't spin, and then we put two more wraps around and then come in and trim out those feathers nice and close. Once we've done that, we can pull them up together and then wrap back towards that dubbing ball at the back, and that'll bring those two in and have them sitting side by side. With the wing tied in, it's now time for the hackle, taken from our new dry fly hackle pack that's available in the black feathers now as well. We've taken one of those feathers, and I'm just going to strip the fibers off one side. So with the pad of my index finger and my thumbnail, I just, you can see, pull out those fibers and peel them down towards the base of the feather. That's going to strip away one side and leaves the stem from the inside of the feather exposed, so we can wrap that onto the hook shank rather than wrapping on the fibers that are folding in on themselves. This will give us a nice clean hackle wrap. We just work through this, making sure we've gone far enough up the feather to wrap what we need. You don't want to get halfway through and realise we haven't gone far enough. That's going to more than take care of it. Then we'll come down to the tip, just preen out those fibres and peel off the fibres on the other side, getting rid of that little guy there who's stuck out. And when we tie this in, we want to ensure that that bare edge is aligned in towards the hook shank. Capture that with one loose wrap and then start wrapping back towards the feather wing, and then smooth the space out, wrapping forward. So we've got a nice even base to wrap our hackle on. Then we'll just take one wrap around the eye to get that thread out of the way. At this stage, we take our hackle and we're just going to slowly pass it around. That first wrap is the important one, making sure we align everything and it doesn't get caught in the CDC or the dubbing. Once that's good, we then know that we can continue wrapping and we'll have nice perpendicular wraps to the hook shank. We're going to build this one up a little bit heavier than the one that was on the vise to begin with. You can do them sparse or heavy or half and half. Depends on how much you want it to float versus how big of a silhouette you want it to cast. Now before that final wrap, we're just going to bring our bobbin back up into play. We'll unhook that from the hook eye so it's tucked in there between the feather and the dubbing ball. We wrap halfway over, then capture behind with our thread, then wrap in front with the thread, and behind the hackle, and in front again. 4 wraps, that's all you need to lock that hackle away. Then we'll take our half hitch tool and, keeping tension on the thread, just rotate the half hitch tool so that slides up and that'll lock that off. To finish this off, we just need to trim out that hackle. Let's take our scissors and create the tiniest little V. Then holding the hackle tight, we'll just slide that in and it will pop it off. It'll only cut the fibers that are held tight. The ones that are left on the hook shank won't get touched at all. And then we just need to apply a couple of 2 or 3 turn whip finishes just behind the hook eye. Again with the scissors into that V, push it in and trim it out. And finally, to make sure that this isn't going anywhere, just a little dot of head cement on either side of the shank so that it soaks into that thread and locks that away. And there you have it, a simple little ant tied with just 3 materials. That dubbing floats, that CDC floats, that hackle floats. So there's really no issue with buoyancy on this. On those stormy afternoons in summer when the ant falls happen down in the mountain valleys, this little fly is going to get a lot of attention on the surface. So tie yourself up a few. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. There'll be more fly tying content for you next week and every other week. And as always, happy tying.